My husband announced this Friday, all 14 members of my family will be staying at our house for 10 days. I stared at the message on my phone while sitting on the edge of my bed. My hospital discharge papers still folded beside me. Less than 24 hours earlier, a nurse had warned me to avoid stress, heavy work, and exhaustion. My body still ached with every movement. I typed carefully, hoping kindness would be enough. I was discharged from the hospital yesterday. Can we please wait one more week? His reply came almost instantly. The plans are set. Stop making excuses and get everything ready. Not how are you feeling? Not do you need help? Just instructions. Friday arrived with gray clouds hanging over the neighborhood. One by one, cars filled our driveway. Suitcases rolled across the pavement. Laughter echoed outside my front door. My husband stepped inside first, wearing the confident smile of a man expecting obedience. Then he stopped. The house they expected to enter no longer existed. I had been married to Daniel for 11 years, long enough to recognize the difference between thoughtlessness and entitlement. In the beginning, his family's visits were occasional and welcome. I cooked their favorite meals, prepared guest rooms, and spent weeks making sure everyone felt comfortable. They thanked him for the hospitality and praised him for having such a well-run home. I learned quickly that in their eyes, the work had no owner unless a man claimed it. Over the years, the visits became longer, the expectations heavier, and the notice shorter. Someone needed extra towels? They called my name. Dinner was late? They looked at me. If the house ran smoothly, my husband accepted the compliments with an easy smile. If anything went wrong, it somehow belonged to me. Daniel never raised his voice often. He didn't have to. Dismissal can be quieter than anger. You're better at these things. You always manage. It's only family. Somehow, those words became permission for everyone to treat my effort as an endless resource. The hospital stay changed something. For the first time in years, I looked at my exhaustion and realized it had been mistaken for availability. The pattern had never looked dramatic from the outside. That was the problem. It lived in small moments. A coffee cup left on the table because someone assumed I would collect it. An empty plate pushed slightly away instead of carried to the sink. A suitcase placed in the hallway without a question, as if rooms prepared themselves. The first few years, I barely noticed. By the fifth, I noticed everything. Daniel's mother would stand in my kitchen with polite concern in her voice. You look tired, dear. Then, after a brief pause, could you make another pot of tea? His sister had a habit of checking the guest room with quiet disapproval. The towels last year were softer. His brother preferred humor. Daniel married well, he would laugh while looking directly at me. Best decision he ever made. Everyone smiled, including Daniel, especially Daniel. At family dinners, compliments drifted across the table like smoke. Daniel always takes such good care of everyone. You've built such a welcoming home. My husband accepted every word with a grateful nod, never once turning to acknowledge the person who had cooked the food cooling on their plates. I remember watching him once as he accepted praise for a dinner he hadn't planned, bought, prepared, or served. His expression never changed. Neither did mine. By then, I had become skilled at silence. The hospital stay only sharpened what had always been there. When I returned home, pale and exhausted, Daniel placed a list of groceries on the kitchen counter. No rush, he said casually while picking up his car keys. We just need everything ready by Friday. Not are you feeling better? Not do you need help? Only the assumption that I would continue performing a role that no one had ever officially assigned me. The list remained exactly where he left it. For 3 days, I walked past it without touching it. By Thursday evening, the paper had curled slightly at the edges. Daniel noticed. He looked at the untouched counter, then at me. You haven't started? I met his eyes for the first time in days. No, I answered quietly. The room fell silent. Then he gave a short laugh. The kind people use when they mistake boundaries for jokes. You'll figure it out. I simply nodded. He thought he knew exactly what that meant. So did I. Thursday night, I stood alone in the kitchen long after Daniel had gone to bed. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of the clock above the stove. The grocery list still sat on the counter between us like a contract I had never agreed to sign. For years, I had believed that keeping the peace was the same thing as keeping a family together. I was wrong. Peace, I realized, requires participation from both sides. What I had been protecting was comfort, specifically everyone else's. I thought about the hospital room, the white walls, the monitor beeping steadily beside me, the nurse reminding me that recovery was not optional, no matter how urgently life demanded otherwise. For a moment, I imagined what would happen if I continued exactly as before. The cooking, the cleaning, the caring, the smiling, the apologies for being tired. The image felt heavier than the illness itself. That was the moment something shifted. Not anger. Not revenge in the way people expect revenge to look. Just clarity. Friday morning, I packed a small overnight bag and placed my discharge papers carefully inside. When Daniel asked where I was going, I handed him a copy of the doctor's instructions. "Recovering," I said. He frowned as he skimmed the page. "You can't leave today. They'll be here in a few hours." I looked around the untouched kitchen, the empty guest rooms, and the groceries that had never been purchased. Then I looked back at him. "You said the plans were set." For the first time since I had known him, he had no immediate answer. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Behind me, I heard him finally notice the silence of a house that had not prepared itself. By the time the first car pulled into the driveway that afternoon, I was already miles away, and for the first time in years, so was the responsibility that everyone had quietly placed on my shoulders. The decision itself took only a few seconds. The preparation took less than an hour. There was no dramatic confrontation, no slammed doors, no speeches rehearsed in front of mirrors. I wasn't trying to punish anyone. I was simply refusing to protect them from the consequences of their own assumptions. Years earlier, after one particularly exhausting holiday visit, I had created a folder on my laptop called House Information. It contained everything that kept our home running quietly in the background. Grocery deliveries, Wi-Fi details, appliance instructions, emergency numbers, takeout menus, and the schedule for trash collection. Invisible work made visible. I updated the document one final time. The guest room linen closet location, the washing machine instructions, the number for the local grocery delivery service, the password to the streaming subscriptions everyone liked to use during their visits, every answer to every question they would normally ask me. I printed the pages and placed them neatly on the dining table under a simple, handwritten note. "Everything you need is here. I'm following medical instructions and focusing on recovery. Please make yourselves comfortable." Then I sent one message to the family group chat. "My doctor has advised complete rest following my hospital discharge. Since the visit could not be postponed, Daniel will be hosting everyone this week. I know you'll all understand." I attached a photo of the discharge instructions. Facts are difficult to argue with, especially written ones. No accusations, no complaints, no attempt to embarrass anyone. Just information presented calmly, enough that objecting to it would require someone to say out loud what they had quietly expected all along. By the time I zipped my overnight bag closed, my role had changed. Not because anyone gave me permission, because I had finally stopped asking for it. From the window of my hotel room, I watched rain slide slowly down the glass while my phone rested face down, beside a cup of untouched tea. I already knew what time they would arrive. Daniel's family was remarkably punctual when someone else was doing the work. At 2:07 p.m., my phone lit up. One message. Then another. Then 6 more in quick succession. I didn't read them immediately. For years, every inconvenience in that family had become my emergency. We time, so had I. The family stayed for 6 days instead of 10. No announcement was made. No discussion was held. Plans simply changed in the quiet way they often do when the people carrying the weight are no longer carrying it. When I returned home, the house looked different. Not cleaner. Not messier. Different. Daniel was standing in the kitchen reading instructions from the dishwasher manual while his mother showed his brother where extra cleaning. Supplies were stored. For a moment, no one noticed me standing in the doorway. Then Daniel looked up. Something in his expression had shifted. Not guilt exactly. Recognition. The kind that arrives years late but arrives all the same. Over the following weeks, small things began to change. Questions replaced assumptions. Requests replaced expectations. When family visits were discussed, dates became conversations instead of announcements. For the first time in our marriage, the sentence, "We'll figure it out together," entered our home. But the biggest change happened somewhere quieter. Inside me. I stopped measuring my worth by how much inconvenience I could survive for other people. I stopped confusing sacrifice with love. I stopped believing that being needed and being valued were the same thing. They aren't. One makes people grateful for your presence. The other makes them comfortable with your absence because they assume you'll always return to fix everything. That week mattered because stories like mine rarely begin with cruelty. They begin with habit, with invisible labor, with good people slowly becoming resources instead of partners. The moment you become invisible in your own life, resentment is not far behind. Sometimes the loudest statement a person can make is simply to step aside and allow everyone to see the work that was there all along. Some lessons arrive through arguments. Others arrive through silence. The silent ones usually last longer. A month later, Daniel asked me a question he had never asked before. How many people can we realistically host? Not can they come? Not what do I tell my family? But what can we manage together? The difference was only a few words. Sometimes entire marriages turn on fewer. His family still visited. His mother still preferred her tea a certain way. His brother still left coffee cups in unexpected places. People rarely transform overnight. But expectations changed because visibility changed. Daniel began preparing guest rooms with me instead of walking past them. He learned where the extra blankets were stored. He learned how long grocery shopping for 14 people actually takes. He learned that homes do not run on love alone. They run on labor, and labor, when unnoticed long enough, quietly becomes loneliness. As for me, recovery took longer than the doctors predicted. Not physically. Physically, I healed within weeks. It was the other recovery that required time. Learning to say no without guilt. Learning that rest is not something you earn after collapse. Learning that asking for consideration is not selfishness. The strange thing about boundaries is that they do not only teach other people where you stand, they teach you. For years, I had mistaken endurance for strength. I know differently now. Strength is not carrying everything until you break. Strength is setting down what was never yours to carry alone. Sometimes I think back to that Friday afternoon. The suitcases. The driveway full of cars. The look on Daniel's face when he walked into a house that had not magically prepared itself for 14 guests. He thought everything had changed. He was right. The house was the same. The difference was that for the first time, I had stopped disappearing inside it.